wanted to talk about two managerial candidates for West Ham today. The first one's about Lopetegui because that's really interesting. Apparently he has demanded that the board show ambition before joining West Ham. Can't quite make my mind up on this one, whether we're in a position of power or he is. I'm starting to think now maybe he is. It seems that the club, particularly David Sullivan, really want this guy. The other one is the Bournemouth manager, Iraola. I think he's brilliant. Everything I've seen about him looks absolutely outstanding. And I think I'm just a little bit annoyed maybe that he's not in the run-in at all, that he's not sort of featured. He's not on any bookies list. I've not heard his name mentioned. But there's every possibility that Bournemouth could finish well above West Ham with a far smaller budget and playing the sort of exciting football which perhaps we want to see. He's building a really good reputation. I fear with Iraola that maybe he's just a little bit too inexperienced. I'm not even convinced our board will even know who he is. I don't mean that they don't know. Yeah, that guy on the touchline when we faced Bournemouth, of course. But aside from that, I just don't think he'd be a consideration. I don't know whether that would stand to reason that he wouldn't be somebody that Tim Steidten wasn't aware of. I doubt that very much. But he's clearly got an interesting reputation. As I understand, he's got the same agent and he's for as Xabi Alonso. He's got a big connection with a load of other managers. I think he's got a connection. I think he played alongside Mikel Arteta, knows Arteta very well, and he was schooled under Marco Bielsa as well. There's a lot to like about this guy. I think he got promotion to La Liga. Honestly, the club escapes me, but he got promotion, and I think his first season finished 11th or something like that. He seems to have good pedigree, really good pedigree, this guy. And I like the way he speaks. I like the way he sets up his teams. I like the way that they play football as well. I'm a little bit surprised that perhaps the American ownership over at Bournemouth. We're not surprised. I'm just a little bit worried that they appeared to know a little bit more about upcoming coaches, trends in football than maybe we do. Maybe they just got really good advice in, but in which case that's something I think we should be looking to replicate. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. Back on Lopetegui, this is really interesting. So I don't pay a lot of attention to websites. You know, you start to get I think, a feel for who your trusted sources might be. I'm talking about continental sources here. And Sports Witness weren't really on my radar. But I started to notice they were coming up with a few other stories of late. And it was them that broke the news on this Ruben Amorim getting on the plane, getting on the private jet to fly over to have a meeting with West Ham. Nobody else ran with it. It wasn't mentioned. There was nobody, not Fabrizio Romano or anybody else, was saying in the build-up to this, I think West Ham will be flying at Ruben Amorim over. None of it. Absolutely none of it was anywhere. They were the people that got the scoop. So I've sort of kept an eye on them, really. Thinking, okay, well, this website clearly knows a lot more than I ever thought. So I was really interested to read a story. It started sort of last night. It's been regurgitated a little bit, which sort of originated from them, and that is that Julen Lopetegui is almost holding West Ham to account. He's demanding to see the colour of West Ham's money. He's saying to West Ham, show me your ambition. Now, a little bit of context is required here. He left Wolverhampton Wanderers because he wasn't happy with the ambition that they'd shown. Apparently, they wanted to keep him. It was him that said no. I think that's relatively common knowledge now. And a lot of it is reported as a fallout with the ownership, maybe. But I don't think it's important. I think it's important to look at the nuance, to look at the fine detail of why that is. Otherwise, you're just sort of looking and thinking, well, this is a man that falls out with everybody, which, of course, is sometimes the suggestion. But actually, it was about ambition. He felt that he'd kept them up. Now he wanted them to reinvest in the squad. Now, actually, to play devil's advocate here, I can probably understand it from Wolves' point of view, having listened to Kieran Maguire, who knows all about football finance, the price of football. I think, as far as he was concerned, Wolves can't really afford to spend any more money. So I can sort of understand why Wolves would have said to Lopetegui, no, we can't give you any more money. We're trying to watch ourselves with FFP. But what that's demonstrated is that there's an ambition with this guy, and he's trying to hold West Ham to account. Now, I think that's actually a good thing, irrespective of what I might think about his football or anything else. The truth of the matter is I don't know much about his football. I'm going off what a lot of other people are saying. That's just the truth of the matter. From what I understand of it, he does he plays a defensive but possession-based style. He keeps the ball for a long period of time. He really utilises his fullbacks quite a lot, but he plays more or less a defensive style. As I've said time and time again, style of football doesn't bother me that much, it has to be said. But if you're going to play defensive football, you're going to need to win. It's like the old 1-0 to the Arsenal. I think David Moyes employs what would the modern phrase would be a low block, but it doesn't seem to block very much at all. The ball seems to go to the goalkeeper in the back of the onion bag quite a lot, really, doesn't it? So, I think if you're going to do that, you're going to play defensive football, it has to work. And I think, as the understand it was Lopetegui, he uses his wing backs or full backs quite a lot to get advanced up the pitch, but also he'll try and strangle the life out of a game by keeping possession. His mantra is very much if you've got the ball, the opposition can't score. So anyway, look, it's one of those things. But what I do like about it is that he's putting pressure on the ownership, because I think somebody has to do this. I think this is really, really important, that not just our board of directors, any board of directors is held to account. If I was going for the job, I would want to know. I would want to know how much you're going to spend. What's your ambition? What can we do? What do you want to do? I remember I know Brighton are not quite as fashionable as they were, because De Zerbi's not done as well as he did last season. But I remember listening to, maybe it was Tony Bloom, someone like that. I remember him saying that De Zerbi wanted him to be more ambitious in the way that he spoke. He was demanding that whenever the Brighton Hove Albion board members spoke publicly, they didn't just speak about it being okay to be in the top 10. That actually he wanted them to say, you better push and you better be pushing to get into Champions League places, because that's what I want to do as a manager. Yeah, I know in hindsight, probably laugh a bit now, but that was his ambition, and he wanted to see it from the owners. And I think, this is important that a manager comes in and does that. Look, a couple of polls ran yesterday. One of them did myself, which was basically, I was just interested to see, would people, because Lopetegui's unpopular, would people prefer Lopetegui or Moyes? The reason being, it was basically, it was a choice of two unpopular candidates, I think, retaining David Moyes or hiring Lopetegui. David Moyes came out 55%, Lopetegui 45%. It was something like that. Personally, I have to say, I'd probably still go with Lopetegui on this one. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's what I want. That's why I said at the start, I'm looking at other managers here. I actually, Amorim, a good month, 6 weeks before he flew over, I said I'd like West Ham to go for him, but I think that's unrealistic. And to be fair, I don't think he's shone himself in a particularly good light recently. I'd prefer Iraola than any of the other two that we've just mentioned, and I think there's a number of candidates. Would I want Lopetegui? Ideally, no. Would I want him ahead of David Moyes? Yes, I would. And because I just say to maintain what I said before, I don't really have any desire to see David Moyes do another project. I think it takes so long to build. And it needs a fast rebuild, and he's not the man for the job. Even if you could just, when you assess it, strip out whether you like David Moyes, whether you don't like David Moyes, whether you want him, just ask yourself this question: can he build quickly? And the answer has to be no, because it's just no, isn't it? And I don't think that I want to see us take a long time over doing the next thing. I think we've got to move quick. I think the age of the squad, the desperation of us trying to extend Angelo Bonner and Aaron Cresswell's contracts is concerning, to say the least. And I would like to see a manager with some newer ideas come in and really see what they could do by taking the club forward. So I was really interested to see not just the result of this poll, but it was a weird one. It wasn't the sort of poll where you got a list of candidates who are attractive to you. It was a case of, well, would you rather be kicked or punched? That's That's what it felt like, And it was a Hobson's choice, really. It was sort of no choice at all. I'll be interested to see some other people, factored in there. I would imagine if even just if Fonseca had been added to it, I think that the results would have been slightly different as well. And I'm also mindful the more people you add to the poll, you're sort of diluting the people that want Moyes changed, and then all the people. So let's say 30% of people want to retain David Moyes, and there are 70% of fans want him gone. That 70% are going to be split between lots of different managers. That 30% are just going to want to sort of vote for David Moyes. And listen, I totally understand it. There's a lot of people that think David Moyes has done a really good job at West Ham, and do you know what? He has done. He has done what he was mandated to do. He really was. I'm not going to sit here and criticise David Moyes and slag David Moyes off. I think it's unnecessary. But for me, it's definitely time for a change. I'm really, really interested to see it. And I think I'm also mindful with this managerial stuff that we're getting such bad choices. You do end up, it is a Hobson's choice. You end up picking someone that ideally you wouldn't have selected. And I just want to reiterate this because we've been here before. We've been here before with Pellegrini. We were running Hammers Chat. We've been doing Hammers Chat for a long time now, actually, it seems. And when Pellegrini came in, nobody, as I said, we ran polls. Nobody had voted for Pellegrini. He was, I mean, one of the polls he might have got into the top 10, but he wasn't in anyone's top 6, 7, 8 managers. What happened was David Sullivan appointed Pellegrini, and when it didn't work out, it was sort of leaked that Sullivan had said, well, you fans asked for him. Well, no, actually, that wasn't true. So I think I'm sort of laying, drawing a line in the sand. I'll putting my marker out, certainly, here, and just saying, I think I'm a little bit worried that that one or two things might happen, that we might end up with a coach that nobody wants, and then us as a fan base being told, well, hold on, you said you wanted David Moyes, so you wanted rid of this guy. Or the other thing is that actually the ownership might look and say, oh, okay, you want to keep David Moyes just because but it's almost perceived or translated that just because we don't want Lopetegui as a fan base means that we want to keep David Moyes. That they're not not the same thing. One doesn't mean the other, certainly. Anyway, I mean, I was going to say it's hotting up. What is interesting is that we are apparently going to get a decision on the manager's future in May. I don't think I can spend every day doing a manager video. I'll do something else. We'll do a news roundup tomorrow or something else, unless there is some more breaking news. But none of it's breaking news, really, is it? The majority of it is rumours. But I bring this one to you today because of the source of the rumour. The rumour is from Sports Witness, and I mean, they're starting to gain a little bit of credibility with me. As I say, there was nobody else was saying that Amorim was coming over to meet with West Ham. They were. And then they provided pictures and all the rest of it. So clearly they got some contacts. Whether they've clearly got contacts with Amorim, at least, whether they got contacts with Lopetegui, I don't know. We don't know. But as far as we understand it, Lopetegui is holding the board to account and saying, well, hold on, necessarily, I'm not just going to take this job. You better prove your ambition to me. And if you strip out whether you like the manager or whether you don't, I think whoever gets the West Ham job is incredibly important, that they get assurances and promises about the ambition of the club and about taking the club forward.